Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we finally have from the home team, the Crucible of Life. I'll freely admit that when this band showed up on my radar, I vaguely remembered some positive buzz, but I've never had the chance to do the proper deep dive into their run of albums, which for a late 2010s pop rock band has received some shockingly good reviews. So I went back to those first two albums and you know what? I think I might get it. The first album, Better Off, reminded me a lot of mid-2000s Fall Out Boy in Brian Butcher's vocals and the commitment to groove and melodic hooks, even if I don't quite think the flair was fully there in the writing. But their 2021 sophomore album, Slow Bloom, took a swerve closer to late 2000s dance-ready pop rock, more in the vein of Boys Like Girls, although with a little bit more meaty swagger to boot. The band has often described themselves as heavy pop, which might have more promise than some of their attempts to dabble in funk or R&B. And thus for their third album, well, the funny thing is that I think for a lot of the fans of what I've described, they'll probably get on board for this album. I think it's pretty good overall. I'm not quite sure they're fully realizing their potential though. Now for one, it seems like they're trying to strike the difference between the pop punk of their debut and the slicker, watery pop flourishes of Slow Bloom, with the occasional splashy horn section that's glancing towards Panic at the Disco, to a few chunkier grooves spanning new wave to almost seem to be cribbing from modern metalcore. And yet that might be the first issue. Some of the transitional passages between verse and chorus to build consistent momentum can often feel really clunky. Right from the opener, turn you off with the odd glistening bridge switch up and the breakdown on the outro, but also continued into the jerkier verses of Love & Co. that can't make the most of its solid hook and a flashy solo from intervals, or the wonky simmer of Somebody Else's Face with Broadside, not really helped by their drummer, who between an underpowered mixing of his kit and some generally unimpressive playing can't match up some of those meatier bass lines. And that's not counting some of the odder experiments, where Roommates tries to have this 2000s R&B progression on the first verse and the bridge before the hook builds into a sharper two-step grind, or how the closer Loud really wants to be kind of funky, but the riffs are so chunky alongside some of the buried acoustics and the horns, and let's not forget a trap breakdown, that it just kind of comes across as goofy, especially given the sexual undertones and the utter lack of a concluding segment. Granted, I'm often left wondering if the lead guitar or the synth could give the vocal hooks a little bit more pop, like the swaggering Brag, or the more anthemic Overtime, or the pop ballad Walk This World With Me. That is probably one of the best hooks on the album, even if the Marianas Trench comparison will slip into view. Hell, that might be the reason I like it so much. Or hell, maybe just allow some of these songs to develop more effectively. The abbreviated runtime of Honest and Hell, which actually have some pretty great rollicking grooves, and especially All Squeezed Out, and that can't even run a minute long, not counting its samples, it leaves these tracks feeling really undercooked. This album runs really quickly and could have had a little bit more meat. Or you know what, maybe the lyrics of the issue, which have the feel of thematically writing oneself out of writer's block, tackling the friction that comes with placing all of your trust in the band and then slamming into a brick wall trying to find inspiration, where that'll cause tension in one's friendships and relationships, alongside some welcome self-awareness that comes with wanting to ride out that ego boost of the crowd even as it's gonna be fleeting. Now this sort of self-referential material, it's not unfamiliar in this brand of pop rock. I mean, Fall Out Boy and Marianas Trench themselves have tapped into this well many times, and I actually really like the juxtaposition of how what might seem like their stock tempestuous relationship songs could well be referring to band friction or relationship with the audience. But I think where the home team is a little less impressive, it comes in their poetry. They're a lot more blunt, they lack some of that flavorful language, which doesn't exactly help them move out from the shadow of their influences. And what becomes frustrating with the home team is that I think their sound has a lot of potential. It's flashy, the grooves are legit good, they've got imagination to push and expand their sound into places that their peers would not handle as well. But instead of focusing or refining some of those pop instincts, they've kind of started circling their own tail in the subject matter, and I'm just not sure the songs are strong enough to back them up, especially in the melodic hooks. Don't get me wrong, I'm fond of this formula. I want to hear more, and I kind of wish I was on board for their earlier albums, as this does feel like a bit of a step back. But you know what, it's still good. If you're curious about the sound and you want to get on board, you're probably going to have fun with it. give it a shot. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. Again, I really wanted to be all the way on board with this album, and I think a lot of fans of like Fall Out Boy, Boys Like Girls, Mariana's Trench, you'll probably get behind them a decent bit. I think, again, the seeds of greatness are here. I just don't think all the pieces fit together just yet, and the abbreviated runtime on a couple tracks, and the feel that they could be focused a little better, I think where some will find the mess intriguing, to me it just got a little distracting, and again, I want to like this more. Beyond that though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if y'all want to get involved in helping support the channel, get projects on my schedule so I'm not this late, or hell, get actually a chance to talk with me on my Discord, link to my Patreon is right over there. Please don't feel obligated. Tough times, I understand. The option's available though. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.